Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Mr. Denny Carter, and we join you in the fallout of the NFL draft. And you know what that means. We're starting to get coach quotes, and they're all about running backs and how they're all amazing, and they all have three-down skill sets, and we're going to use them that way from the jump. So we're going to talk, of course, about Luther Burden, who's not a running back, and Shedeur Sanders, of course, who is very much not a running back. Before getting into TreVeyon Henderson and his potential fit in New England, the RJ Harvey rocket ship in Denver, Colorado, Quinshon Judkins, and if he should be a target, what is a pretty limited Browns offense on paper, whether it's Kaleb Johnson season in Pittsburgh, a Cam Skattebo. Of course, it's Cam Skattebo season in New York City. And then some of our favorite later round picks, some of the more sleeper names. Denny is not allowed to say the Nash fellow who did not even get drafted because they had to be drafted to be eligible to be part of this. I'm just kidding. I didn't tell Denny that. I just don't want to talking about Nash. But first, what we're going to talk about is, of course, first, Denny, thanks for noticing my haircut, by the way.
Yeah.
Off air.
I always notice a haircut. I mean, even if someone just gets like a little shape up, I know I will notice 100% of the time. And I'm getting a haircut as well. And so as usual, we're timing our haircuts similarly.
We are. So Denny couldn't help but notice my haircut. I couldn't help but noticing that the Miami Heat were losing 72-33 at halftime last night, Denny, to the Cleveland Cavaliers, which has had me wondering many questions like, maybe the NBA should not have a system where the Heat get into the playoffs. They were one of the play-in tournament triumphant teams. And also, 16 playoff teams, kind of a lot in both the NBA and the NHL. The NHL, of course, it doesn't matter because the NHL playoffs are totally random. Now it's not on NBC, I can say this. And, they dropped the puck when the playoffs started. It makes no difference at all if you were good during the regular season. No. Connor Hellebuck against my St. Louis Blues, going to win the Vezina Trophy for the Winnipeg Jets, has gotten pulled in back-to-back games because once the playoffs start, literally nothing matters. I don't know really where I'm going with this because that's in hockey. In the NBA, it very much matters if you're good. And the Miami Heat apparently decided they were not good and did not try.
I did notice last night. I caught some of the Rockets Warriors game, and
good game.
Why am I rooting for the Rockets so hard in that series?
I feel like what's gotten into you? I feel like you've gone full underdog mode to your own detriment.
Yeah.
Although you told me the absolutely sickening Denny fact that in the 90s you rooted for the Jazz against the Bulls. Just truly sickening. Like actually sickening. So I guess I'm not that surprised.
But it's not fair to the Rockets because with Jimmy Butler, the Warriors are not the 7 seed. They're like the 2 seed.
No, yeah, they're like the 2 seed.
So that's not fair. Anyway, yeah, I was watching that game. I saw the Heat stuff going on, and just to give folks an idea of how bad it was, we have 43-17 in the first quarter. The Heat followed that up with a 16-point second quarter. They made 36% of their shots, only 19% of their three-pointers. I mean, we are talking like catastrophic shooting. I can't 19% from
Denny. What we're talking, many people posted this at me on social media networks. What we're talking is Cancun. And honestly, in some ways, credit to the Heat. Yeah, the gentleman's sweep is you lose 4-1. The Heat, they knew there was nothing gentlemanly about this team. They knew they didn't deserve 4-1. They knew they deserved 4-0. They knew they deserved the first flight they could get to Cancun. I appreciate a team that doesn't beat around the bush.
Yeah, sure.
This gets absolutely annihilated.
I'm just glad that we can all agree Tyler Hero not good. Never been.
Denny, by the way, Denny, a man of so many awful opinions. I really do think rooting for the Jazz is probably your worst opinion you've ever had.
I actually, honestly, may have cried when the Sonics lost to the Bulls in the finals.
Why you couldn't even appreciate Michael Jordan.
I couldn't. And my dad
appreciate Michael Jordan.
My dad told me at the time, he said, you are going to regret this so much when you're older. I became a Barkley fan, a Charles Barkley fan when he played with the Suns against the Bulls. I just wanted Jordan to fall, and he never did, except for against the Magic. That one.
Denny, of course, rooting for David Duval against Tiger Woods.
I did.
What? You didn't even root for Tiger? What is wrong with you?
I wanted Duval. Yes.
When greatness is there, you have to root for it.
I know.
That's
I mean,
the deal.
eventually, I caved and I became a Tiger truther.
When
But
there's
for a while, I was
true
like,
greatness, you front run true
I
greatness.
was like,
AKA
you never
Patrick
know.
Mahomes.
You never know with Duval. It could be better.
You front run true greatness. That's the one time it's appropriate to be a front runner. Denny was not front running Shedeur Sanders. A lot of the NFL draft industrial complex was. I mean, let's be real. The Shedeur Sanders thing, it was a very tortured debate. But by the time draft day got here, like I feel like it had settled in a pretty realistic place. It was like, yeah, he probably won't go in the first round. And I do think the NFL sometimes responds to real life forces where like the Shedeur hype train, whatever you want to call it, was totally out of whack, like totally preposterous and ridiculous heading into the draft. But then the reaction went way, way too far. The counter, like the Shedeur Sanders counter revolution. Because I mean, I'm sorry, Dylan Gabriel, you're not better than Shedeur Sanders.
No.
Like, on no planet
No.
is Dylan Gabriel better than Shedeur Sanders. And so whatever, Shedeur, he has a home. We haven't talked about him a ton on this show, actually. We're going to talk about him now. First off, yes, Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel. It sounds like you actually agree with this.
Yeah. And, we could spend all show talking about the many factors that may have gone into his fall. And, Albert Breer had some interesting anecdotes about how poorly the meetings went between Sanders and the teams.
Can I say something about that one? Like the teams like planting like fake information in the install. Like, did you see that one of the ones?
I know. Yeah. What about it?
It's like, I mean, is this really the best method to evaluate? Like, oh wow, you entrapped like a prospect who some people, you could just be trying to be polite. Like you don't want to embarrass like the OC who's interviewed. Like, oh wow, Josh McDaniels diagram this play wrong. Like,
I think the problem was mainly that Sanders did not have a good reaction to being told that he missed something. And
he was right. He was right.
You'll be shocked to know this about Deion Sanders' son. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of humility going on here. And so the factors are myriad, and we can't get into all of them.
But you will. So go.
No, I'm not. I will say, as far as the depth chart goes, I mean, he landed in a spot where, I mean, who's going to stop him?
No one. He's the star. He's the week one. He's probably not the week one starter. I do think that's greater than 51% odds he makes 2025 starts. I mean, this is one of the only places where that would be true.
Kenny Pickett is bad. We know how Flacco goes. We know Flacco runs hot and then becomes the worst quarterback in organized football. Okay. And there's no in between with him. Right. And then Gabriel, whatever. And he's not even going to be addressed on game day. So Sanders, yeah, I mean, pretty easily could be the starter. And I say this as a skeptic, someone who was embarrassed for Shedeur Sanders for many reasons, including a recent video I saw where Cam Ward is just clowning him constantly into his face.
So bad. I almost wondered if it was AI, but it's clearly not AI.
No, man. I mean, that was rough. If you haven't seen it, look it up because it's rough.
Denny, who does not support Shedeur Sanders being embarrassed, wants you to look up the video of him being embarrassed.
Right. Shedeur Sanders, who I do not support, is easily going to be the starter for the Browns. And I think actually that's not a bad thing.
Of course not, because you overstated how bad he was. He's Andy Dalton 2.0, and he can play pitch and catch and
yes, right. Right. And he can get it there on time, anticipatory throws, whatnot. He's an upgrade from what they had last year. So it's good for Njoku. It's good for Judy. I'm not going to complain too much. Now, are we going to sit here and say, oh, you got to get Sanders in best ball? No, we're not doing that.
You absolutely do not. Because, I mean, even if he somehow were a 17-game starter, which he's not going to be, I think like the ceiling would be like 21 touchdowns.
And there's no rushing. There's no rushing
at all. No.
So it's more of a distributor. Like we know this prototype in fantasy. It can work for the pass catchers. It's not so great for the quarterback himself. That's what we have here. Honestly, it might just end up being kind of a boring thing, despite, national media, not just in sports, but outside of the sports world, flocking to the Browns training camp to cover every detail of every snap between these quarterbacks. It's going to be a disaster.
The Shedeur thing has achieved escape velocity because both my in-laws that don't pay super close attention to football. They were asking me about it. My hairdresser was asking me about it this morning. Producer Adam says the Shedeur article is literally on the front page of NBC News right now. It's like the nation is watching. And when the nation's watching, guess what you're not going to do? Pretend Dillon Gabriel is better than because Stefanski's like, damn it. Can't pretend he's better now.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Stefanski. Look, this is a statement of fact. I just want to put it for those who are not aware. Shedeur Sanders came up as a topic at the White House press briefing on Monday.
Yes, he did.
That's a fact. Okay.
It's a fact.
Now, what you think of that is whatever, but that's incredible. That's unheard of. I've never heard of a fifth round of any pick ever coming up with the White House press corps. It's crazy.
I have to say, by the way, it was touching, like truly touching, that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry thought their selection of Dillon Gabriel would forestall Jimmy Haslam getting involved and making them take Shedeur. Like, well, sorry, Jimmy. Like, we took a quarterback already. Like, I guess we can't take Shedeur, and we're being forced to take Shedeur.
And we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, and very, very touching. They thought that plan would work, because it did not work at all. Denny, very touching that new Bears coach Ben Johnson thinks his Luther Burden plan will work. I know. I mean, the Luther Burden plan could work, but this Bears thing is getting weird and out of control. I thought the Bears would go for a meat and potatoes draft too, because they already made this mistake last year where all they did was load up on weapons to surround Caleb Williams with, but they apparently thought they already did their offensive line work in free agency, where they did admittedly spend a lot of money. They apparently thought they didn't need a lot of defense early in the draft, so they take Colston Loveland in the first round, and then they add Luther Burden, a player I'm excited to see in the NFL, but is far, far, far from a can't-miss prospect. I know you have Luther Burden fighting for targets, not only with a first-round skill player, but then DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, I mean, maybe honestly even Cole Kmet. It strikes me as a bad fit from a compiling standpoint. I'm sure it's a great fit from like in the offense standpoint, because they're just going to focus on like manufactured touches, getting the ball in Luther Burden's hands. But we talked about all the first-round wide receivers last week. What do we think of Luther Burden in the second round of Chicago?
I hesitate to say anything negative about Burden because he's your guy.
I told everyone he'd be a bust.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to dump on him. He ran almost 90% of his routes in college from the slot. So he is a slot guy. There's no question about that. Now, Ben Johnson was actually asked on Monday, I believe, by a beat writer. The beat writer said, hey, look, a lot of your passing game production came from the slot in Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the tight end, whose name is Laporta. Other guys rotating into the slot. And the Lions actually last year and the year before led the NFL in middle of the field targets, right? That's like the muff, right? They're hammering.
I was gonna say it, then I was gonna say actually don't say it.
the muff has never been more hammered in. And so that's what they're going to do in Chicago. Now, when Ben Johnson's asked this and he says, look, DJ Moore, he can play in the slot. Rome Odunze can play in the slot. Luther Burden can play. We're going to have to test this out. So it's still yet to be seen. But, Burden is not going to be used anywhere else. So it is worth sort of monitoring, I think, for deep league purposes.
I will say he always lined up in the slot. But Luther Burden, he was also sort of featured as like a downfield receiver at times. The thing about Burden, he's so dangerous. I've said this already several times in the show. So dangerous with the ball in his hands. But it's weirdly, mysteriously difficult to get it there. I don't really understand it because he's so talented, but it was such a limited route tree, which is why that coupled with his likely slot usage just makes this, to me, at least for 2025, a full fade in fantasy. Because I think Ben Johnson took this guy to make him the designed manufactured touch guy. At least his rookie year, he just feels like the manufactured touch guy, and there aren't going to be enough manufactured touches to create wide receiver 3 value in this situation, I don't think. And that's why, even though I think the touches it could be like Jameson Williams, and that the touches, a different style player, but and that the touches he does get could be explosive. He's going to be having like a lot of like 23-yard gains on like short targets, right? That kind of thing. I just don't think there'll be enough of them to create a weekly fantasy value for Luther Burden.
Right. It'll be hard to carve out, a reliable spot for fantasy purposes with Odunze and Moore in the offense. And then I guess Loveland's going to be part of it, even though I'm not.
He's a first-round pick, so I would assume he'll be involved.
I honestly, I can't pretend like I care about that.
No.
There's probably like 5 other tight ends who are better.
It says on the sheet. It says on the sheet we got to talk about Loveland, but I mean, we don't care. We don't care.
I mean, I'm not a film grinder, but are you kidding me? Like I saw highlights of this guy. He looks like Jason Witten in his final season. Like this guy.
I'm curious, and yet you love Harold Fannin. Curious.
I love Fannin. Fannon's gonna blow up fantasy if he gets the opportunity.
You know what has to be killing you, Denny? Killing you after all your Shedeur hate is that Shedeur Sanders is the best thing to ever happen to Harold Fannin.
No, I listen.
Because guess what Shedeur's doing? 4-yard targets to Harold Fannin literally every play.
That's why I'm trying to be as intellectually honest as possible. Okay. And I say yes, Shedeur, give me those 6 dot throws, man. Just pump those out. Give it to Hannon, to Njoku, to Judy. Let's go. PPR machine. Okay. He can do that. Okay. Flacco, not so much. Flacco is boom or bust, right?
Flacco and Fannin would not be a good match.
Probably not. But anyway, getting back to the Bears, I actually am not. I'm not bullish on Luther Burden, but I'm interested. I'm curious.
Very, very curious. Since you also declared Caleb Williams not good many times in the history of the show,
I got to stop saying guys are not good.
Well, except for Colston Loveland. I mean, stop.
I mean, obviously.
Stop. He's actually probably pretty good, but I don't like the landing spot.
I mean, he's probably a good football player.
He's a very good football player. It's just an offense I felt like should be conservative, like has so many targets. Very good in real football, going to be very confusing and frustrating in fantasy football. A lot of confusing and frustrating backfield situations. That's one of the staples of the draft. Did you come out of the draft wondering, like, well, what the heck is this team going to do now in the backfield? One of those teams is New England. Patriots GM Elliott Wolf said he views second-round pick TreVeyon Henderson as a 3-down back, but also a really good complement, which, though, those are very contradictory terms. He's a 3-down back and yet also a complimentary back. Denny, you and I had talked before. I do like, with TreVeyon Henderson, like the new brain trust factor, where, the former coach, Jared Mayo, he cooled pretty quickly on Rhamondre Stevenson. This new brain trust seems like one of the first things they determined was we don't like Rhamondre Stevenson. Everyone always comes in, especially like these powerful, like play calling types, like Josh McDaniels. They're giving a lot of leeway, a lot of largesse. How do you say that? In the draft.
That's it.
And clearly Josh McDaniels is like, we got to get Henderson. He's my guy. I love the he's my guy factor for TreVeyon Henderson. But you think that we shouldn't just say, au revoir to, I can't say that at all, to Rhamondre Stevenson.
Yeah, you shouldn't speak any French, really. No. I think Stevenson is not going anywhere. He's signed through 2026. For whatever reason, they signed him to an extension. Was it last year?
It was very recently.
It was
last week.
I mean,
it was very, very recently.
Maybe he had like a really good practice or something, but so he's sticking around. Also, Pat, this thing where everyone's like, Henderson, dual threat, great pass catch. I don't see it. The spreadsheets are telling me something totally different. And here's what I mean. Okay. And I wrote about this on the site if folks want to check it out. But in 2024, Henderson ranked 92nd out of 140 qualifying backs in yards per route run. He had 22 catches on 23 targets, which that's a good rate.
Sounds good to me.
Rate. Yeah. But I mean, if he was that good, like 23 targets the whole season, what?
Well, it's a 2-back backfield, a lot of explosive plays in this Ohio State offense. You probably don't need to target the running back all that much.
Right. No. Okay. All right. That's fair. And he's a good, he picks up the blitz well, which who cares?
I feel like the most important data point, not to cut you off, but to very definitively cut you off. I feel like the single most important bullet point with TreVeyon Henderson, Josh McDaniels, he views himself as like the ultimate 3rd-down back guy. Clearly, he's like, this guy's going to be our 3rd-down guy. Yeah. And I feel like that's a pretty compelling data point. Yeah,
sure. And sometimes in college systems, yeah, you're right. I mean, running backs don't have the opportunity to like.
Yes, folks, I would love to target you in the backfield today, but we're playing Purdue.
Yeah,
let's
right.
Be real. All right, let's be real.
Right. Yes. Right. We're up 21-0 with 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. You're not going to see a target today.
No.
So I understand that. The Patriots offensive line is abysmal. It may have improved with the drafting of the fella.
The
fella with the
Campbell.
Campbell with the arms. Did he say
all we're saying is that we've seen longer arms.
I've seen longer arms. Did I hear him say that he would die for Drake May?
Someone said they would die. It was someone said they would die for Dan Campbell. Not no one's dying for Drake May.
Well, to be fair, I would die for Dan Campbell.
Exactly. Dying for Dan Campbell, that's normal. Dying for Drake May, like, I might try another sport.
No, it goes without saying.
Yeah.
You watch football, you die for Dan Campbell.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Drake May, I don't know.
No one's dying for Drake May.
Maybe you don't have to do it.
No,
but
you can just simply request a trade.
You could just
instead
do that.
Of dying for Drake. we digress.
I don't think Drake would want it, honestly.
No.
Pro Football Focus.
You don't have to do that.
Pro Football Focus graded
Sorry.
New England's offensive line as by far the worst run blocking unit in the league last year. It's a bad team. They're going to be bad. They have no receivers. It's a poor environment all around.
It's a poor environment. One other weird thing too, Antonio Gibson still has guaranteed money left on his deal. Also.
I totally forgot about that guy.
He could probably get cut. It's under $2 million, but he does have guaranteed 2025 salary also still. So kind of just a strange situation in that Patriots backfield. Have we beat it to death? Is it time to move on?
I think it's time to move on.
Is it rocket ship season for RJ Harvey, the number 60 overall pick in Denver, Colorado? We thought the Broncos, we connected them to a lot of like the first round running back possibilities. Denny, instead they wait to almost the end of the second round, but second round draft capital, that's very good for a running back. RJ Harvey is facing so little competition in terms of other draft picks or veteran holdovers. GM George Patton said he believes he can keep going upward as a receiver. We know that's like priority one kind of is to fix the running back receiving game in this Broncos backfield. It's usually a staple of Sean Payton's offense. Are there any really holes to poke in the RJ Harvey Broncos argument? Or is he the kind of guy where already a RB3 and then by the time summer drafting gets here, we might be talking about him as an RB2?
Yeah, he's going to be an RB2. I mean, easily the fact that whoever was going to land in Denver was going to have a huge runway to lead back duties because they just have nobody there. We've talked ad nauseum about how bad Jaleel McLaughlin has been. So I think Harvey will have every opportunity. I have a quote from Sean Payton, from after the draft, and I think it's kind of revealing on RJ Harvey. He says, quote, it's oftentimes when they get to the NFL, they're used maybe a little differently, and it might just be the style of play, right? But when you look at the running skill set, it was like, wow, and explosive runs, all of those things. And yeah, I mean, so you begin to study the passing game stuff, and he's got soft hands too. And then he compared him to Darren Sproles. And for the Zoomers, listen.
That's bad. Never mind, I'm out. That's bad.
Whoa. For the Zoomers, you've never, ever seen a PPR miracle like Darren Sproles.
That actually is true.
Darren Sproles could have 4 carries for 11 yards and score 29 fantasy points, okay, in a game. Now, the Broncos still peppered their running backs with targets last year. Don't get that wrong, okay? We were right about that. The process was right. The results sucked, okay, because Javonte Williams, bad, never been good, and Jaleel McLaughlin, bad, never been good. RJ Harvey is good. I think this can work.
I don't love the Sproles thing, and that I just looked it up. Never reached 100 carries in a season in his career, but that doesn't seem like a likely outcome for RJ Harvey. I don't think Sean Payton was suggesting he's a 1-for-1 analog for Darren Sproles. And when people talk about like the Sean Payton PPR cheat codes, the person they're probably thinking of in their head is Darren Sproles. Caught over 70 balls like multiple times in New Orleans. It was just like a big play waiting to happen. So that's pretty exciting to hear that actually. And
yeah.
I still think to be cautious, you begin with him outside of the top 24, RJ Harvey, but that depending on like what happens in training camp, what the coach quotes are, what the reports in the local media are, it could be like August 26th. Like you just cannot deny that RJ Harvey is an RB2. Yeah, it's one of the running back landing spots with the fewest question marks.
I agree. Real quick, only Ashton Genty had more rushes of over 10 yards than Harvey last year. So this is a big play guy, an explosive guy. It's basically, Pat, exactly what they didn't have in Denver last season.
Guy reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles. Because Darren Sproles at K-State, man, the Zoomers, talk about some highlights you need to look up.
I mean, really, like I used to love drafting Darren Sproles to PPR teams. It's so easy, and he always went too late. It was great.
Denny used to like good players. We used to like this conversation. It's time to move on. We'll be right back after this. The first Saturday in May is the ultimate all-day live celebration. It's the Kentucky Derby, live at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Plus, prepare for the action at Churchill Downs this week with race previews, analysis, betting tips, features, and lifestyle at NBCSports.com/Kentucky Derby. Churchill Downs is really like not that far regionally from my house, 4 or 5 hours, and I've never been. It's a great shame. A great shame. One day I'll go there, Denny, and instead of 2.5 drinks, I will have 4.5.
No, wow. Rest in peace, then.
That's probably honestly more like 7.5. But yeah. So that 7.5, of course, still puts me far on like the low 50th percentile of Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah, no, you're not even close. You're not even close to like the heavier types. I will say you're gonna have to dress up. You're gonna have to put on some nice clothes.
7.5. That's normally what you get like while you're being transported to the Derby. like you have 7.5 in the bus or whatever. So the Kentucky Derby, they'll live all day Saturday on NBC. I will be watching with my family. Really good stuff. Quinshon Judkins, Denny. He's the RB3 off the board, I believe, at number 36 overall. Browns GM Andrew Berry's talking him up as a bell cow runner who can carry the load for us. I just have questions about what does that truly mean in this offense where it's going to be a very limited attack. Even though we just decided it's Shedeur Sanders, we don't quite know who the quarterback is going to be. It's a transition year for the entire offense. Pierre Strong is still there. Jerome Ford is still there. Dylan Sampson, a early day 3 pick. It could be a really good change of pace back. What does being a bell cow in this offense really get? Because Quinshon Judkins will be the early down leader. Like that, there's not going to be a competition. That's not really up for debate. But what does that really get us in this Browns offense?
Okay, how do I say this without overstating it? If Judkins is the Chubb replacement, I'm not that interested.
Seems really.
Yeah, I mean, because what like Chubb.
All Chubb ever did, was lead the NFL in rushing.
No. I'm not saying that. No. Judkins is not going to be as good as Chubb.
No.
But what I mean is that this team's not great, not going to be in position to run a whole lot, and you're talking about between the 20s, maybe
between the 20s. Merchant feels like an unfortunately plausible outcome, and even though he should be the goal line back, he is a rookie. And I wouldn't be stunned at Kevin's fans. We love Jerome at the goal line.
Yeah, sure.
After Jerome Ford fumbles at the goal line in week 2, and they're questioning him after the game, like, why don't you give the ball to Quinshon? We love Jerome at the goal line.
We told him to fumble.
Yeah,
he did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah. Why would you question that? Why would Jerome Ford not be the goal line back? All right, sorry.
Oh man, Stefanski, man, that guy's down so bad.
He is. He needs to leave.
He does. He's a good coach. He
can't be in an ownership-dominated franchise.
They're going to be so bad this year. Good grief, that team stinks.
They are. Odds-on favorite for the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Adam, can you look up who actually was the current favorite for the 2026 number 1 overall pick? But do you have anything good to say about
Judkins? No. I mean, I'll be drafting other Browns running backs because they're going to be going like 7 rounds after Judkins. But I tend to fade this style of running back. There's I can't imagine.
See, Quinshon Judkins is good, so it would stand to reason that you wouldn't like him. So.
This style of running back, meaning he gets no high leverage touches.
Yeah, he really does.
I mean, I gotta get my targets out of the backfield, and you're not getting any. You're not getting any.
Quinshon, he's not gonna be a target for me, I'll say, just because I just don't know what this even really gets you. I think he could have more touch competition than people realize. Adam was talking up Dylan Sampson before he came on the air. I totally agree with that. He's very fast, kind of like a very quintessential change of pace back. I do like Dylan Sampson on day 3. Quinshon, though, I mean, they're not going to be able to pass. So maybe they could be one of those bad teams that they're going to run no matter what the game situation is. Judkins becomes a little more attractive then, but that has never really been Stefanski's MO, like you said earlier in the Shedeur. Stefanski ain't reading all that a lot. He established the run when we had one of the greatest runners of all time in Nick Chubb. Then he would establish the run. Without Nick Chubb, he seems kind of more like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not doing that. So Quinshon, we're just beginning the dialogue. I'm sure.
Real quick, just to finish on the Browns here. We've talked about how pass heaviness is sort of a quarterback thing, whereas Joe Flacco is always going to be in a pass heavy system. Anyway, Shedeur Sanders strikes me as that kind of guy.
Oh, absolutely. Cool. As he said in the Cam Ward video, they didn't ever have a running game, so it will be interesting to see if they actually have a running game. But Shedeur absolutely seems like an attempts are a quarterback stat. Where he's here to drop back 62 times, and he's out of whatever the other thing he was supposed to do.
he's out of 3-yard Judkins runs.
Yeah, because he is dropping back 62 times. The lowest win totals so far for next year: the Browns, Giants, Jets, and Titans. That's the Browns. The Browns, we can move that down to 4 or 5.
And producer Adam says all at 5.5 wins. If the Browns win 6 games, I'll eat my shirt.
But someone reminded me that I said I would eat my shoe on. I think it was something Shedeur related.
And yet you didn't.
I have not done that. We're gonna have to work on that. We're gonna have to boil my shoe. Denny, Kaleb Johnson, 3rd round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like this a lot in fantasy because the Steelers were some of these teams we have to wonder, are they really going to use this guy? Or the Steelers are so transparent. If the Steelers draft an early down running back in the 3rd round, guess what he's doing? Yeah. He's the early down running back. They don't really even do the fake competition stuff. I feel like a lot of times they don't have the depth to do it at a position like this. But I feel like Kaleb Johnson, just pencil him in as the early down back. They have typecast Jalen Warren. They want Kaleb Johnson to be the 1st and 2nd down guy. This is way, way too bullish of an assessment for me on 3rd rounder Kaleb Johnson in Pittsburgh.
No. I do wonder when we get into the heart of draft season, will Kaleb Johnson or Jalen Warren go off the board first?
No, Jalen Warren. He's the ultimate fell for it again player. He'll be going off the board first.
Okay. Well, you're probably
people
right.
are prepared to fall for it again. Najee's finally gone, man. You don't get it.
No, this is way worse for him this year.
Someone who might actually be good.
Yeah, these things got really bad for Jalen Warren now because now they have a highly productive big back, and the Steelers. Look, the Steelers exist to do 2 things: to get blown out in the wild card round, and to give a bunch of carries to a big back when it's 4 degrees outside. And that's what they're going to do here. And Jalen Warren, not that big. So sorry, Jalen.
Kaleb Johnson or Quinshon Judkins, Denny?
Kaleb. Yeah.
What? Really? I guess. Yeah, shoot. Should we drill down? Would Jalen Warren or Kaleb Johnson have the higher ADP? I feel like Jalen Warren is someone people want to succeed so badly.
I do too. I like him a lot.
They construct any case for him, even though it'll never happen.
Well, it's easy to construct because you
understand, man, he was hurt for a while last year, which is true. But
it's true. Jalen Warren would need several backs to miss time in order to do what he needs to do to be an RB1.
NFL coaching staffs do not change your role.
They typecast you.
Once you it does not matter who did the typecasting. It could have been the worst coach ever. Nathaniel Hackett, when he was in Nathaniel Hackett's system, he was a 3rd down back. There's nothing.
Yeah, well, that's what you are forever.
Aren't you Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah.
Can't you fix this if you really wanted to? Hackett says a 3rd down back. All right.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do, fella.
Truly nothing they can do. And it's the same coaching staff in Pittsburgh. So Jalen Warren, I do fear for. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh, Denny, said he plans to deploy Najee Harris, the aforementioned Najee Harris, and Omarion Hampton as a 1-2 punch. And I believe this is the team where they've both been called starters. Correct, Denny?
Yeah, that's right. We love our dual starters.
Is Najee just ruining everything again for a different team or $5 million? It's not nothing, but it's not like the biggest commitment for a running back. Omarion Hampton is 1st round draft capital. Greg Roman, who is Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator, did tend to feature 2 backs in Baltimore. But should we just not worry about Najee Harris that much when it comes to drafting Omarion?
Well,
or are we very, very worried?
I'm not too worried. I mean, Hampton's numbers were really good. Averaged almost 4.5 yards after contact per rush last year. North Carolina, only Ashton Jeanty had more rushes of more than 10 yards. I'm sorry, it's Harvey and Jeanty. Anyway,
you were just gonna say that stat for every running back.
I mixed it up a little bit. Harvey obviously better. No, I'm kidding. But Hampton's good, and as far as like the composition of this Chargers offense and the way it wants to operate. Look, before their bye week last year, massively run heavy, like very typical Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh situation. Like we're going to run it on every 1st and 10. We're going to run it in the red zone constantly. That worked for a while when J.K. Dobbins was ripping off longish runs, and that was never going to last.
AKA weeks 1 and 2.
That's right. And then week 3 happened, and we never heard from him again.
No.
But then when they came out of the bye, they decided to let it rip as far as the pass goes, and I think that actually was the right decision, despite it that experiment ended.
We declare with all the players we declare not good. Are we seriously going to keep pretending Justin Herbert's good?
Okay. Herbert is so volatile because he makes two to three throws per game that you've never seen in your life. Unbelievably good throws, right? He also constantly gets the ball batted down.
What's that all about?
You know what it is? Here's what I heard this on a recent. I can't remember. I think maybe a Mina Kimes podcast, but he's 6'6", like he's like Dan Marino, right? And he gets every ball batted down. It's because his throwing motion is so elongated, and
he also dips his shoulder constantly.
And it's true, his throwing motion is not good. What's going on? Anyway, I actually do think we've probably seen like the best there is from Justin Herbert. And I think that they're probably going to just try to lean on the run. So both these guys could get involved, Hampton and Harris. But Hampton is exciting. And Harris, I said this on a podcast with you and Kyle the other day. Like second lowest EPA per rush in the league since he entered the league. Like really, truly abysmal stuff.
Just truly abysmal. And Justin Herbert, he's fancy Joe Flacco. I actually do say that affectionately. There are worse things to be.
Sure.
And one thing I'll say in Herbert's favor, we have still, even after a year of Jim Harbaugh, never seen him with a real running game. He's never had a real running game. So he's had an abnormal amount of pressure on him. Patrick Mahomes, of course, he doesn't have a real running game, and he just makes a Super Bowl.
I know. That's the thing. I mean,
you don't necessarily need a real running game, but most quarterbacks need a real running game. He's never had one. I still think his efficiency could really increase if he ever actually has a real running game.
See, I hesitate. I'm sorry, but I hesitate to embrace this idea that a quarterback needs a running game, because then you're embracing
some quarterbacks.
You're embracing the idea that you run it to set up the pass, and that's backwards. Like that's provably backwards.
Oh, hold on. It's provably backward in that it's one size fits all. There are some quarterbacks that need the defense, not focus solely on the pass. And I think Justin Herbert is one of those quarterbacks where he would benefit if the defense actually had to worry about the rushing attack from time to time.
I feel like you might be able to say that about like literally the world's worst quarterbacks. Justin Herbert should not need a running game.
He's good. He's not elite. I think we can give up that idea. And it could really open things up down the field for him.
Yeah.
If the defense has ever had to worry about the running game.
So the Tua Herbert wars, which have raged in ways that no one can even imagine, right?
Dolphins fans are not ever getting over this one.
No, but here's the thing. They both lost.
I know.
They both, no one won this. No one won this war. You both lost. You both ended up with a mid quarterback.
Herbert's going to win it eventually. We're going to take a break eventually, and AKA right now. We'll be right back after this. The run-in for the Premier League is live on NBC and streaming on Peacock with crucial fixtures in the race for Europe. This Saturday, catch Arsenal as the Gunners look to finish strong against Bournemouth. First kick is set for 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Denny, of course, the Reds have already lifted the Premier League trophy, one of the earliest in the history of the PL.
Obviously.
What do you think of the Liverpool side?
Better than London.
I was honestly hoping you were going to say that.
That's all. That's my assessment. Better than London. And honestly, I mean, how can you not be?
They were better than London. They were better than Manchester this year. What are we talking about here? I skipped Skattebo. We got to talk Skattebo. Skattebo, early. So, okay, listen, it's a day 3 pick, but very early day 3. Still has good running back draft capitals, like 105, 106. Tyrone Tracy, the fumbler, as we know him. Devin Singletary, the placeholder, as we know him. We would have liked to see Cam go on day 2. But I really feel like early day 3, an offense that has no passing game, an offense that has no good hold of a running back, is Cam Skattebo going to be a 2025 redraft factor, not just dynasty?
All right, Pat, you know that I evaluate players solely based on spreadsheets, and you know that I don't care about the vibes at all. I'm going to make an exception here.
All right.
Cam Skattebo.
We've been saying boo, Adam and I, but we're not.
Cam
Skattebo
has exceptional vibes. Okay, here's what football fans love. They love winning, but if you can't win, and the Giants are not going to win this year, obviously.
No.
They love a big old running back who bulls through people and bounces off tackles and makes something out of nothing. And that's what you're going to have with Cam Skattebo. And no one else is good. Devin Singletary, obviously not good. Tracy, quietly disastrous as a rookie.
He was disastrous. He was not good.
So it's wide open. It's wide open for this big, guy, big running back to just barge through and be a lead back. I think that there's a chance that he easily leads this backfield.
So again, 4th round, pretty good draft capital for running back. It's actually better draft capital than Tyrone Tracy had last year too. Where Cam was an early 4th rounder. Tyrone Tracy was actually a late 5th rounder. There's just not much allegiance there. I think the Giants coaching staff, they cannot unsee the fumbling problems with Tyrone Tracy. That seems to has stigmatized him in the Giants coaching, kind of understandably so. He just kept putting the ball on the ground. Cannot do that.
So I do have some stats about Skattebo real quick. 2024, he ranked 7th among all college backs in yards per route run and 4th in yards after the catch per reception. So what I'm saying is he's not just a guy who's going to hammer defenses between the 20s and between the tackles. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And I think that PPR wise, that could be very interesting here.
He can catch the ball. He's a tackle breaker and he can catch the ball. 2 things you really, really like to see in a running back. Via the Arizona State website, it is Skattebo. But we've never been more back. Someone actually pronouncing their name the cool way for once. Cam Skattebo, obviously it's Skattebo. He's not insisting on some difficult, unfun pronunciation.
Well, just wait till he has one good game.
I know.
And it's going to change.
He'll be Skattebo then. That's a real shame.
No, it'll be like Skattebo.
That is a real shame. Cam Skattebo, Denny, or Quinshon Judkins, who are you prioritizing in 2025?
Skattebo.
Skattebo or Kaleb Johnson in Pittsburgh?
Skattebo.
I think I agree with you on both those. Omarion Hampton, 1st round pick. Omarion Hampton.
Hampton.
Yeah, I think.
Let's not get crazy.
Although we do that very frequently. We've talked about almost every running back, Denny. But do you have a favorite day 2 or even just day 3 running back we have not talked about yet? There's not a whole lot of options on day 2 that we haven't already talked about. Do you have a favorite day 2 or 3 running back that we didn't discuss yet?
No, it was Skattebo. And I wrote about him actually in a piece that's live about draft steals, about guys who I think went too late. I really don't understand why he dropped that far. I thought. Well,
he bombed the combine. We didn't expect him to be fast, but he was 4.65. I mean, that's very slow. Very, 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 very slow.
Okay. But really, honestly, this is not a bit does it matter?
Probably not. No.
I've seen a bunch of super combine killers, guys who just destroyed it and they are terrible.
Here's what I would say. blowing up the combine doesn't necessarily matter. Bombing the combine does tend to matter, I feel like.
But his burst score was like 97th percentile, not 97th
Exactly.
percentile.
Yeah. If you do poorly on the long speed, you need to do well on the acceleration.
Yes.
The short area, and he did do that.
I'm like, you're not drafting Cam Skattebo thinking that he's going to rip off 60-yarders. That's not happening. But the Giants, like when the Giants are going to be in games, which who knows how frequent that will be. They're going to give the ball to whoever is their lead back quite a bit, and I think Skattebo would fit that role very well.
I don't have a day 2 or 3 guy that we didn't already talk. I need to learn more, frankly, on Trevor Etienne, even though I feel like I watched him a lot in college.
Yeah,
I need to learn more on a lot of these guys.
Panthers, the Charlotte Observer's Mike Kay said that Etienne might return kicks and would be at best the RB3.
Yeah, whatever. Never talking about him again.
Yeah, right. No, I mean it's a long path for our guy. Yeah.
Denny, favorite day 2 wide receiver. Did you know you were supposed to pick one?
No, yeah, the guy I wrote about, Royals, Jalen Royals from Utah State, went to the Chiefs. I'm pretty excited about it because he's a spreadsheet dude and really popped in a lot of metrics. And I know he wasn't playing like the greatest college teams in the world, but you can't be too picky in that part of the draft. I kind of see a little path to him maybe being in 3 receiver sets, for the Chiefs. I know Rashee Rice is coming back from an injury. Xavier Worthy has some off-field stuff. I don't know how serious, not serious that is as far as the NFL investigating. We'll have to see. But Royals most likely will be a kick returner, but he has the juice. I'm telling you, this guy has the juice.
He does. Royals is the kind of guy, when you look at his pre-draft profile, you kind of start to get the sense that the Chiefs are getting away with it again. Because he was productive. He's not huge, but he's not small. He's over 6 feet tall. He's thick. He's very fast. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but 4.42 speed. Just kind of don't really know how he fell to the Chiefs when he did. And this seemed like could be a potential really big hit for Kansas City. And a guy who's going to be very popular in dynasty drafts. Like, he won't be drafted like a 4th rounder in dynasty drafts, rookie drafts. Or Royals is a guy I really, really like on day 3. Day 2, by the way, I do like Jack Bech. Is it pronounced Bech, by the way, or is it Bech?
I think it's Bech.
Bech. No, it's Bech, per Adam. And I just like Bech from the standpoint where he's going to be the 2nd rounder. I feel like dynasty people, redraft people are just going to ignore, because it's going to be a run-first offense. They just took Ashton Genty as one of the league's leading target hogs and Brock Bowers. It has a set slot receiver in Jacoby Myers, and Bech was a slot guy for a while in college until he wasn't. And where he did really, really good work on the outside last year. And like, even the worst offenses, every team, they need someone on the outside. And I feel like he's like the clear-cut lead outside guy for the Raiders right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Bech, he's been the guy that early receiver draft pick that no one really wants anything to do with. And it seems like every year it's like, why weren't we drafting that guy? Like
right.
His great real life draft capital. Like, I never once considered drafting him. I feel like Jack Bech could be that guy for the
Raiders. No, I think that's a fair argument. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite day 3 prospect we didn't talk about, or have we exhausted all of them?
I think we've exhausted them. I don't want to go too far out on a limb here, but I will say Jaylin Lane is somewhat interesting. Commanders took him at 128.
He is. And it seemed good for Terry McLaurin because they don't have duplicative skill sets. It seemed like it could be like a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
There in Washington.
He's super fast, primarily played the slot and 3 receiver sets in college. Really good like tackle breaker, makes something out of nothing, yards after the catch kind of guy. He enters a Washington receiver room that's not too crowded. I could see him with a good summer, good training camp, like carving out a little bit of a role. And, you attach yourself to Jaden Daniels, a very good passer. It could be worse.
In Washington receiver room, too, an offense and a quarterback that was making like total journeymen, like Olamide Zaccheaus, Dami Brown relevant last year. So that is a really interesting data point in Jalen Lane's favor. Like, this is an offense that's just making like total like Jags, like good fantasy.
I mean, I was excited about Zaccheaus for whatever reason.
I always say Olamide, but is it actually Olimide?
It's I don't know.
It's Zacchaeus is what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all the time we have for the show is what it is. We have so much stuff from the draft. So, Denny, what do you have live on the site right now, by the way?
I teamed up with Lawrence Jackson to talk about veterans who won or lost in the draft. I'm trying to avoid the term winners and losers, but I just said it anyway. Yep. So he wrote up
really no other way to say it.
Right. He wrote up the guys whose prospects may have been bolstered, and I wrote the opposites for the site. And also, I also have the 5 draft steals. I really tried to go deep on a few guys, including my guy Harold Fannin Jr.
5 draft steals for Denny. We have a draft roundtable. Kyle and Eric Froton have draft grades. Connor Rogers has draft grades. And I'm going to have a fantasy fits article coming out later today on Tuesday, we hope. So the draft still covered from every angle on rotoworld.com. And that's going to include on Thursday when this show returns to Mr. Kyle Dvorchak. So for Denny, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with you in 48 hours.